Hi friends. Those of you who are connected with me on Facebook, you must have noticed that in the past few weeks I have been posting a lot of video messages. Now, these have been essentially my thoughts on various issues affecting our country, our politics, our society, our conversations, our social media interactions, even our relationships with people around us. Now, a lot of you were telling me that I should be doing these videos more often in English. The videos were in Assamese, the past ones. So a lot of you were telling me that I was confining my viewership to just one community, and therefore I should, expand my reach and expand my the consumption, the public consumption of my thoughts by doing these videos in English. I'm not really sure what kind of a reach my videos are going to have, because even though I do have a decent number of friends in my on my Facebook in my Facebook account, but I often notice that things that I say do not resonate very well with the people. So I'm not too sure if there'll be any great public consumption of whatever I say, my thoughts. But since so many of you have been asking me, so I bow before your wishes, and I'm going to do these videos now, more in English as well as in Hindustani. And unfortunately, these will have to be monologues for now. And well, why should Prime Minister Narendra Modi have all the fun? If he can have monologues, and if people can accept that, I can certainly do my own monologues. But I'm not going to infringe upon his trademark of Man Ki Baat. I'm going to have these Dil Ki Baat with all of you. And I promise these are going to be heart-to-heart conversations. And unfortunately, there is no way I can make this a two-way thing, because you can only post comments. I dare not do any live video, because this is just my first video. And I'm not very familiar with the technology either, because many people who do things professionally, they primarily come from the television background, and they are more accustomed to facing the camera. They are more familiar with the technology, and they are much more camera friendly people. So they do a good job in front of the camera, and I am not expected to do any sort of a job in front of a camera, because I'm a backroom boy, and people I'm a backroom boy from the world of print, and people identify us with our bylines, and certainly not with our faces, and certainly not with our voices either. So I'm going to try out with this one, and if there is a decent viewership, if I get good feedback, then maybe I'll continue doing these videos in English from now on. But of course, the thoughts are rambling, and the thoughts are going to be a little random as well. But of course, I promise not to veer off track and try to be to the point, and hopefully not boring. So I want to talk about certain things today. In fact, there's an issue that has been bothering a lot of us in the last couple of days, and that is the International Press Freedom Rankings, which have been released. And this time, India has fallen 2 notches further, and we have landed at 138 than last year. Just 1 point behind us is our favorite neighbor, Pakistan. Now, when these rankings had started way back in 2002, and that was the year when India was, particularly infamous across the globe for the Gujarat riots. So that year, India had the rank of 80. In 2009, India fell to 102. That was a more than 20 point fall. That same year, Pakistan's ranking was 159. This year, India is at 138, Pakistan is at 139. Now, for India, it has been a terrible fall. For Pakistan, it has been a tremendous climb. So what does this imply? It means that Pakistan is doing something right, and we are doing something wrong in India. Now, of course, press freedom was never adequate in South Asia. But I used to feel very proud while talking about India because India was the only country, it still is the only country in the whole of Asia that has had a successful parliamentary democracy for more than 70 years. And ours is not just, our democracy has not just survived in India, it has actually flourished. So this is something really to be proud of. So in the past, and this was just 5 years back, so many of us used to, feel, to be honest, we used to feel a bit superior to our neighbors next door, because, and superior not because we are a bigger country, but because we believe that we were a better country. We were a country with a better polity, with a better social discourse, with a better political discourse, with more freedoms, more rights. We were a better country, I thought. But over the last 4 years, my faith has been shaken. And the rankings actually speak for themselves. They prove that what many of us have been talking about since 2014 were actually not unfounded. We did have substance when we said that things are going to get bad the way things are going on. In the coming few years, you will feel this even more, because the freedom of expression is a fundamental right that distinguishes us from our neighbors. In our immediate vicinity, there is no country that enjoys the kind of freedoms we do in India. We still do enjoy those freedoms. I'm not saying that we have lost those freedoms completely, but many of those freedoms, especially the freedom of speech and expression, now largely is confined to paper. So it's there in print. We know that it exists. We just don't feel it very often. Many of us in the press have been feeling it acutely because we second guess ourselves. We self-censor. We think twice before saying something. Forget about writing. That is really unfortunate for somebody in the press to feel this way. And this is because, well, we have not taken our freedoms seriously enough. We took them too lightly, and we never realized when these were eroded or taken away gradually. Second guessing ourselves is the worst that we can do to ourselves. It's the worst for a journalist. If you cannot speak truth to power, you are not doing any journalism. You are only doing public relations. You are doing PR for the government or for anyone who is in power or who exercises power. You cannot do journalism without that guarantee of freedom of speech and expression, that guarantee of safety that a state has to ensure to all its citizens, especially those whose jobs are perilous, are hazardous. The state is supposed to ensure those freedoms, those protections. If the state has failed to do it, then the rankings also reflect that. So this much you can deduce from these rankings, and these are troubling rankings. And any right-thinking person, any right-thinking citizen of India should be really worried about the way the things are going. Today it is your freedom of speech and expression. Tomorrow it could be some other freedom that could be in jeopardy. So people need to speak more often. That's what the Pakistanis have been doing so well. They don't enjoy the kind of freedoms we do, but despite that, the Pakistani press has done a tremendously good job in speaking truth to power, in holding power accountable. That is a spectacular thing that the Pakistanis have been doing. Of course, there are so many problems with their press as well, but then many of them are still trying. In India, it's entirely different now. Many of us are talking the language of submission. If we have submitted, if we have given up, then we are not going to speak for the people who are standing behind us. We do our job for the people who read our newspaper or the people who watch our channel, the people who hope that, okay, there is the media, people who in the hinterland of this country, who believe that one call to some journalist is going to solve his or her problems. Those people are the ones who are feeling betrayed, because their faith in a journalist has been shaken because a journalist they call up because some land grabber has grabbed their land, and he or she approaches or calls up a journalist with the hope that this journalist is going to do something about it. He's going to write about it, or he's going to show it on television so that there is some reaction from the government. But that journalist will tell him, hey, the person who has grabbed your land belongs to a certain political party. He's the Bahubali of your area. He is the local MLA, or he's the MP, or he's connected to the MP. So the journalist will tell him that, or he won't tell him that, but then the journalist will decide on his own that he's not going to report on that. And that is the most unfortunate thing that can happen to any press anywhere in the world. Now, to give you the example of Pakistan, Pakistan and India started together. But Pakistan took a different route, we took a different route. Our founding fathers were so wise back in 1947 that even though a country, a new nation was born on the basis of religion just next door, our founding fathers in India decided that we will not be a theocracy. We will be a secular democratic republic. We will guarantee all the rights and privileges and freedoms to all our citizens. And we believe that we could be a welfare state, a state that would be fair, it would be equal, it would be for all people, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, color, faith, sex. All kinds of people will enjoy all kinds of freedoms in this country. Now, this was a very modern thought back in 1947, because India was a very ancient civilization. It was not a democratic, it did not have any democratic tradition. For that country, with a brute majority of Hindus, to have decided that we will not be a theocracy but a secular republic for people of all faiths, that was quite a remarkable thing to do back in 1947. That is something we don't often appreciate in India today, because that gave us a tremendous head start. We started off with, if I have to give you an example of athletics, we had somebody like Jesse Owens or Carl Lewis to give us that head start. So we came far ahead from all our peers, all those countries that got their freedoms in Asia around the time India got its freedom, or after India became independent. All those countries, we went far ahead of them, because of course, there can be a debate over the kind of economic growth that we achieved, but economic growth is not everything. A country can be a very prosperous country. It can also be a very unequal country at the same time. Now, we were not like that. How did we come this far? That is the unfortunate reality of today's India. And we either can accept this as our fate and do nothing about it, or we can do something to change things. How? I don't know. I'm not a prophet. I can't show you the way. I can't tell you what is the right thing to do. I don't even want to do that. I just want to point out where we are going wrong. And these are entirely my opinions. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to like them either. But these are my opinions, and this is my video, so I'm going to share this with you. You may take it, you may leave it. But these are my opinions. Now, when Pakistan was born, Maulana Azad, he was very prescient, and he could actually see the future of Pakistan. In 1946, in an interview to a journalist who eventually went to Pakistan, he had predicted the future of Pakistan, that Pakistan will be a country which will suffer from all kinds of inequalities. Even though it will be made on the basis of a religion, it will never be equal to all its people. Maulana Azad also predicted that it will be very difficult for Pakistan to stay as one nation, because East Pakistan and West Pakistan have nothing. The people, they have nothing in common apart from their religion. And religion alone cannot be a binding factor. Otherwise, there would not be so many different Muslim countries in the world today if religion alone was the binding factor. There are so many Muslim countries, and many of them have issues with among themselves. So faith cannot be a binding factor, and this was understood very clearly by many Muslim leaders of the time, leaders of the Indian National Congress like Maulana Azad. And Azad also said that Pakistan as a country will never have good relations with its neighbors. So now look at Pakistan today. It does not have good relations with India. It does not have good relations with Afghanistan. It does not have good relations with Sri Lanka or any other country in its neighborhood. That is an unfortunate reality of Pakistan. Now, I want to make it very clear that I have absolutely nothing against the people of Pakistan. I don't have any issues with the idea of Pakistan, with the country of Pakistan. I like the people. I believe that they are just separated from us, our own brothers and sisters, our own family members who have just gone to the other side. So I don't have any ill feeling for the people of Pakistan. I have so many friends over there. I like Pakistani people. But this is also a fact that Pakistan as a country failed in many respects. And we as a country, we clicked because we had the combined strength and the goodwill of the people of this country who came from different faiths but who felt very equal. Of course, there were always issues. There were many internal dissensions, there were many problems, social, political, economic, but these were never impediments to achieving greater unity. Unity and integrity were the ethos of this republic. They still are. So we need to preserve that. Now, why Pakistan? Because it is important to understand Pakistan in order to understand what can go wrong with Hindu Rashtra. If it ever happens, if it is ever achieved, it would be the greatest geopolitical disaster for a country like India and for the whole of Asia actually. Because a country like Pakistan that was based on one religion, it fell apart. It got separated into two. You had Bangladesh, a huge country like India with so many different people, so many different faiths, languages, culture. There's no uniform Indian culture. There are so many different cultures. Every society has its own culture. In that scenario, if you have a situation like Pakistan where people are stressing on one faith, one people, one leader, does it sound familiar? Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. So if people stress on these conditions, then you can certainly expect a disaster at hand. So that is something that should never happen in the case of India. And that is something that you should always discourage. That's why I tell people that you should always have these conversations. Those of you who understand the dangers, not everyone understands the dangers, and you should not expect everyone to understand the dangers, because not everyone reads or not everyone understands what history was like, what politics is like. They all believe in one grand vision which their dear leader has shown them, and many of them will follow unquestioningly. That is basic human nature. You cannot change that. But you can certainly educate people. You can certainly tell people that this is not right, this is wrong. You should have the courage to say that. And a journalist should always have that courage to say that. Which is why press freedom, the falling position of India, this gradual slide of India, is something that all of us in this country should be worried about, because a country that has no free press eventually has no equality. It will only have tyranny and oppression, and it will only lead to many more problems in the unforeseeable future, many unforeseeable problems in the future. So please understand that this is a country that we all love, and this is a country that was founded on great principles, very noble principles. And it is our duty to preserve those principles and not mock them. What has been happening since 2014 is that ideals of a preamble, ideals enshrined in the Constitution, have become abuses Secularism has become a cuss word. Socialism has become a gali. It has become an abuse. This is really unfortunate, because if people are mocking you for being secular, then you should tell them that they are actually being anti-national by going against the ideals of the Constitution, because the Constitution of this country tells you to be secular. If you are mocking that virtue, then you are certainly going against the country. Because these people who talk about anti-nationals and patriots and nationalists, and they always talk in those binaries, they only understand things when told to them in binaries. So they need to be told that you are the real anti-nationals who question people, who mock people for being secular, for imbibing secularism as a virtue, and for holding true to secularism. So you need to tell those people that, hey, it is you who is anti-national and not us. Unfortunately, journalists are not doing that. Journalists should be doing this more often. Only if we do our jobs well do we get a proper society. Unless that happens, we are going to slip even further. So I think all of us need to collectively do something about it. Try to make a better society. I don't know how that's going to be achieved, because I'm not a prophet and I don't want to sound preachy. I don't know how we will do this, but I think we need to think about it. We need to talk about it, because only when we think about it and talk about it can we hope to arrive at a solution someday. So yeah, that's about it. I think I've already talked for about 22 minutes. I want to stop now. I've been rambling all throughout. Please, my apologies for that. But hopefully I could have a heart-to-heart conversation with you. Hopefully you'll be able to relate with it. Thank you very much.